Good morning, friends. I would like to talk to you this morning about MR elastography of the liver and its clinical applications. Before I start, I want to pay tribute to one of the giants in MR. This is Sir Peter Mansfield, just passed away quite recently. He was one of the pioneers in discovering MR, and he was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2003. As they say, we stand in the shoulder of giants. MR has evolved tremendously in the years after Mansfield's time. As you know, MR gives you exquisite contrast detail, but now from imaging of an organ morphology, MR has advanced to evaluate the microstructure, which is what MR elastography is all about. So this is what I want to do in this 10 minutes or so, to describe the basic principles and technique of liver MR elastography, review its clinical applications, potential confounding factors, and to show you a few examples and illustrate our experience in Lakeshore over the last 2.5 years. So this is what it's all about. Chronic liver disease with cirrhosis is one of the leading causes of death in the United States, in India and worldwide. And with the recent epidemic of obesity and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, the prevalence of chronic liver disease is likely to increase further. So CLD from any cause, if untreated, leads to liver fibrosis and progresses to cirrhosis with its complications. And as you know, liver fibrosis is the single most important determinant which decides the prognosis in chronic liver disease. So detection of early stage of liver fibrosis is therefore extremely important. Patients with advanced liver fibrosis and cirrhosis often undergo clinical surveillance, and staging of liver fibrosis is very important because of all these reasons. So liver biopsy, as you know, is current gold standard, but it takes a very small volume of the liver. You can have a normal part of the liver, you can sample a normal part of the liver which is already cirrhotic, and you can get an erroneous value. And it is invasive, small but definite risk of complications. Lab tests are good but not often very specific. Elastography based techniques have come into the forefront in this setting. So basic concepts, I will just touch on a few points so that you will get an idea on what MR elastography is all about. It is a technique to evaluate the tissue viscoelasticity or tissue stiffness. Just like on palpation you evaluate the stiffness of a tissue. It implies the applying of a force, namely either a static or a dynamic, to tissue and measuring the resultant strain or response, which gives an assessment of tissue stiffness. In general, this technique cannot measure stiffness directly. It's an indirect measurement based on the wavelength, based on the assumption that the shear waves travel faster in stiffer tissues. So I won't really speak about ultrasound elastography because Michelle has already covered it in some detail. So MR elastography is the most accurate currently available technique for non-invasive detection of liver fibrosis. It can accurately differentiate simple steatosis from non-alcoholic steatohepatitis with and without fibrosis. It's a very important application, a tremendous scope. We can detect fibrosis at a very early stage before steatohepatitis and fibrosis, before morphological changes manifest. It's a promising technique for the characterization of focal liver lesions. It's an area of research, and it may also be useful during follow-up of chronic liver disease and assessment of treatment response. So 3 important steps: propagation of mechanical shear waves in the liver using a source of vibration, and imaging the propagating shear waves using a dynamic MR sequence which is sensitive to motion, and processing the spatial information in the propagating shear waves with an inversion algorithm which generates stiffness maps. So this is the hard drive, this is the active driver, this is placed outside the MR console and the gantry need not be MR compatible, and this is the passive driver which is placed on the body of the patient. So this is how it works. So this is outside the MR scanner, and you have a plastic tube. This passive driver is actually placed on the organ to be imaged. In this case it is the liver, and this passive driver transmits the sound waves and generates shear waves in the body in whichever organ is to be imaged. So it can be used in 1.5 Tesla or a 3 Tesla image. That does not really make a difference. So this is our state-of-the-art 3 Tesla MR Skyra, and the main thing is the frequency has to be the same. So if the frequency is increased, your value is going to change. So the frequency is standardized at 60 Hz, and patient has to be in supine position, And ideally it is in, you take it in the end expiration. If the patient cannot tolerate the breath holding like that, you take in deep inspiration. And MRI is performed in the fasting state. So this is a few representative images. So the MRI sequence generates a magnitude image, a phase image, a wave image, and a stiffness map. So region of interest are drawn along avoiding the liver edges, large vessels and normal liver tissue, avoid the gallbladder fossa, pulsation artifacts, etc. And once you draw it, the system generates a stiffness value in kilopascals. So you have to take some care in the sense you include a larger area of liver so that your values can be more representative. Usually you take 4 slices, so we take about 6 so that a more larger area of the liver can be imaged. And as I just said, color maps are generated and which gives an overview of the liver stiffness without measuring beforehand. So this is how a normal liver would look like. Normal liver stiffness is about 2.8 kilopascals, and the stiffness is similar to that of subcutaneous fat. Simple steatosis by itself does not elevate the liver stiffness. So these are the main indications: liver fibrosis, staging, and differentiation of simple steatosis from steatohepatitis. So this is what it corresponds to. On your bottom hand, this is the pathological metabolite fibrosis staging system, and this is the equivalent on MR elastography stiffness map. So as I said, normal livers would have a stiffness of about 2.4 kilopascal. So anything less than 2.5 is normal. 2.5 to 2.9 is normal or inflammation. 2.9 to 3.5 is F1 to F2. 3.5 to 4 is F2 to F3. 4 to 5 is F3 to F4. And once you have more than 5 kilopascals, it's established cirrhosis. So these are some images. MR elastography of a patient with normal liver and patient with cirrhosis. On your top, you have a patient with normal liver. You can see that the stiffness is normal. It is towards the left hand side of the color map, if you remember the color map I showed you. While on the normal, on the lower set of images, you can see that the liver is very stiff. This is a cirrhotic liver. But mind you, look at the morphology of the liver morphology has not really changed that much. So if you were to just look at it on an ultrasound or a CT or an MR without elastography, you would think the liver is morphologically normal. While it is not, the liver is stiff, liver is cirrhotic, just picked up by MR elastography. So it can pick up stiffness due to various causes. So this is an image which shows different stages of fibrosis right from F0 to F4. So this is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You can see that the blue is changed to green, and then chronic hepatitis B, the green has become yellow, a little bit of red, and it increases and so on and so forth. This is a chronic hepatitis patient who's gone to develop cirrhosis. So differentiation of simple steatosis from NASH, this is a very important slide. It's a very important clinical, rapidly increasing clinical application of MR elastography. MR elastography can detect differentiate simple steatosis from steatohepatitis. So simple steatosis is differentiated from NASH with an accuracy of 93%, and NASH with advanced fibrosis is detected with an accuracy of 95.4%. So it's a very important concept you need to keep in mind, because many of your patients would have fatty liver and some of them would have steatohepatitis. And so if you pick that up at a very early stage, the patient can do some dietary control, lifestyle modification, and reverse the changes before the patient go on to get fibrosis and chronic liver disease. So this is again images showing a normal liver, a fatty liver, and a patient with steatohepatitis. So on the top is a normal liver, fatty liver. You can see that the liver stiffness has not really increased. On the second row is a steatohepatitis, and you can clearly see that the stiffness has increased. Morphologically, mind you, the liver remains the same. And then a patient with steatohepatitis and cirrhosis, it's really red. This is fibrosis, advanced liver disease. So again, MR elastography is useful in clinical follow-up and treatment response as well. So you need to know about confounding factors. Acute inflammation of liver can elevate the liver stiffness. Acute flares in chronic viral hepatitis can elevate the liver stiffness. And also acute biliary obstruction and passive congestion due to any of these causes. So you need to take MR elastography values with a pinch of salt, or even do an alternate test in this setting, or even go for a biopsy. So emerging applications, detection of liver fibrosis due to methotrexate, evaluation of liver fibrosis in liver transplants. We have done that for a few patients. Characterization of focal liver lesions. Again, the stiffer the lesion, the more chance that it is likely to be malignant. prognostication and in portal hypertension, again at a research phase. So focal liver lesions, on a bottom slide you can see a case of, this one is HCC and one is hemangioma and one is focal nodular hypoplasia. So this is your hemangioma, this is FNH and this is HCC. So you can clearly see that the stiffness is very much elevated, much more than your 5 in this malignant lesion. So the bottom line is, as the lesion becomes, if a lesion is malignant, it's more stiffer, usually above the cutoff of 5 kilopascals. So this is our experience over the last 2 years. We have done about 140-150 cases. So about 48%, or about almost half is F4. You have steatohepatitis with advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis. So I just want to show you a few examples before I close. This is a 50-year-old female, non-rheumatoid arthritis on methotrexate for 2 years. So that's a history of pulmonary TB. Patient took some other medication, but now has come in with weight loss, anorexia and deranged LFT. You can see the liver is enlarged and has a kind of heterogeneous signal intensity on these haste images, haste axial and coronal images. So we do our T1 dual echo in and out of phase image. It's a very sensitive technique to detect the amount of fat. So fat will drop, if the patient has fatty liver, the signal will drop on the post phase images. So there is fatty liver, 42.5%. On the T2 weighted image, you can see that signal is very heterogeneous and it is due to focal fat sparing. And again, the corresponding post-contrast image shows you areas of fatty infiltration with focal fat sparing. So MR elastography shows that the liver is extremely stiff. The stiffness is 8 kilopascals, F4 stage fibrosis. So this is what the biopsy showed: severe macrovesicular steatosis, portal fibrosis with fibrous extension, and lymphoplasmacytic portal infiltrates. So this is chronic drug-induced liver disease, methotrexate-induced steatosis, fibrosis and chronic hepatitis. So this is another case, a 50-year-old male, elevated liver enzymes, obese, viral markers of hepatitis B and C were negative. So you can see your haste images, T2 weighted images. Liver is more or less normal in morphology, the liver margin is smooth. You do the T1 dual echo, your signal fat fraction is about 20%, it's high. So you do the MR elastography, the hepatic tissue stiffness is 6.7. So it's not, the patient has gone on to have steatohepatitis with advanced fibrosis. So that's what the biopsy shows: moderate macrovesicular steatosis, balloon degeneration, and mild portal inflammation, which is consistent with non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. So case 3, again a 40-year-old male is a potential liver donor, and he had dyslipidemia, and we did a donor workup. You can see again that there is signal drop on the dual echo post-phase images. He has a fat fraction of 8%. So we went on to have a MR elastography, which shows a stiffness of 3.1 kilopascals, which gives you F1 to F2 stage fibrosis. And so this patient was not taken up for liver transplantation. So this is what the biopsy showed: mild macrovesicular steatosis, preserved lobular architecture, no significant ballooning degeneration, no fibrosis or inflammation. So another case, fat 20%, chronic hepatitis B patient, alcoholic. And what does the MR elastography show? Severe stiffness, rise in stiffness map, and this is F1 stage fibrosis. So you can clearly see distortion of the liver architecture. So patient has gone on to have macrovesicular steatosis, ballooning degeneration, and also fibrosis. So this is diagnosed chronic hepatitis, NASH, and cirrhosis. So just a last example. This is one of our staff, patient with fatty liver. Signal fat fraction was about 10%. So we did MR elastography about 3 to 4 hours, and the stiffness was about 4.9 kilopascals. So we are a bit wary. So we repeated the scan after 6 hours of fasting, and the stiffness dropped to 3.2 kilopascals. So right now we would make sure that all our patients are fasting, because the normal auto-regulatory mechanism of the liver is lost when the patient has fibrosis. So it's very important that the patient is fasting, and fasting for 6 hours. There are a few limitations which you need to be aware of. If liver has iron content, iron overload, it's one potential problem, and also it's a breath hold sequence. Patient has to breath hold for some period of time for us to get the good images. Future directions: there is a possibility of getting 3D acquisition. Also, there is a possibility to differentiate between pathological processes such as inflammation, edema, and passive condition from fibrosis. So very useful applications are likely to emerge in the coming years. So to conclude, MR elastography is the most accurate currently available technique for non-invasive detection of liver fibrosis. And this is a very important point. MR elastography can accurately differentiate simple steatosis from non-alcoholic steatohepatitis and fibrosis. So if your patients are having fatty liver, you may want to think whether you need to get an MR elastography done and pick that steatohepatitis at an early stage. Potential confounding factors and emerging applications, I've already said. Some of my pictures are from these two excellent articles. One is by Sudhakar Venkatesh, who was here for the light update, and the others from this. Makes excellent reading. And thank you for your kind attention.